6:30, and we do have a quorum, so let's get started. We're recording. Are we good to go?
Oh,
yeah, you may go. All right. Good evening. Call to order the March 11th meeting of the Park and Recreation Commission. Start with commissioner updates. Kate?
I turned in my signatures, so my paperwork is officially in as of yesterday. And there was one slot that no paperwork had been pulled for still.
I found that out today. So yeah, I'll reach out.
So for all of our listeners, there's still time.
There's still time.
Well, paperwork until the
Oh,
20th.
sir.
Signature is in by the 24th.
Speaking of the devil there. If you're going to pull paper, just so you know, it closes on the 20th.
Okay. Thank you. March
And
20th.
March 20th.
And
yeah.
then signatures in by the 24th.
Yeah.
5 o'clock. That's my update.
Kevin?
My update is I have no updates.
Norm?
No update.
CPC has met, and we're looking for, or we have the application, so we're discussing the doc at the next 19th. Yeah, quite a bit.
Yep.
I think that's the only real update I have. Acceptance of minutes. Distributed. See anything concerning anybody?
Just don't remember what the date was to make the motion to accept them. Oh, there you go. I make a motion to accept the minutes from our February 10th, 2025 meeting.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can do that because you're all here.
All can move this right along. All right, Bay Park Historical Society.
Rachel? Hi. Yes, okay. I have your wonderful, it's taking a hot second.
It's very, yeah, very little simple little thing. So I'm Rachel Robinson. I'm a member of the Sudbury, Littleton. I work in Sudbury. I work for the Historical Society in Sudbury. So if I say Sudbury, please know I mean Littleton. The Littleton Historical Commission. For anyone who doesn't know, on April 19th every year, we have a commemoration event. It's always, if you ever see the signs out, it's always 7 p.m. April 19th at Liberty Square. We do some speeches, we lay some wreaths, we play taps. We have to get the Foxborough Minutemen to come and fire the rifles. It's just sweet. It's like 15-20 minutes. It's adorable. So, but this year with the 250th and all of the things that are going on, we wanted to make it a bigger event. So we went, the select board went almost a year ago. So they did earmark $10,000 for us to put on this event. Yeah. So we're going forward. But the event that we do anyways will be in the morning at 10 a.m. We'll do the same little event that we do, traditionally, and then we will process down and by process we drive to Bay Park and have an event. And so we're hoping that it's a nice community event where we can have games and arts and crafts projects, kind of trying to keep it in a historical 250th theme. Dirigible has said that they will be there. They have worked with the active 250th group to come up with a historical, well, not sort of, but a beer based on the 250th, or based on active. We have the idea too, but we didn't get our act together. Some time to get in touch with them. But they'll be there. We are in the process of we have at least one food truck that is hopefully committed as of today. Maybe a couple more. We had a member of the police force come and look at Bay Park and just kind of go over some things. I've asked that they can close off Foster Street right by, like the very end of it, right by the Historical Society, that's where we have food trucks, and the Historical Society will be open. They have a little exhibit that they have been working on for the 250th. And so we're still in the process of trying to get groups to come out and like have tables and be involved. I sent a few emails out to different organizations. It's proving difficult with, it's the first day of April vacation. So a lot of families have already said that they're not gonna be around, or people just won't have the time. I understand obviously sports, will be probably kicked off by then. And Easter's the next day, so I know that there's a little bit of like, the reaction has been like, oh, well, but we're gonna do what we can. So the whole, this is April 19th, it is the 250th, so we can't really move it. I mean, we're not going to, we're doing it that day. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing. There is a little website, you can go, we have a Google Doc sign up for people if they want to go and register. We are willing to give funds to groups if they need some money. We have ideas on there of what they would like, what they can sign up for and what they could potentially do. Do face painting, we'll buy paints, we'll do some things like that. But we do have something, like there will be stuff to do no matter what. So that's from the pitch.
So then in this case, requesting approval for usage of a park on the April 19th date. Approval for alcohol permission. And then obviously you guys are nonprofit, so the fee would be waived.
We're town.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Questions from the commissioners? No, sounds good.
So I will make a motion to, I guess it's grant permission for use of the park. We have to do two separate motions. No, permission to use the park and food and beverage.
Or beverage, because the
Beverage.
select board can go ahead and approve the 1 day liquor license, because you have to give permission.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve, or to say, but yes, to them using the park and the liquor license, the 1 day liquor license.
To ask for it, what they.
Thank
You
you.
got it.
It's been a while.
I will second that.
All right, motion seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
You're all set.
If you have any questions or any ideas, please feel free to email them. Yeah, okay.
So the 19th, it sounds like that's a Saturday.
It is a Saturday.
Let's not getting any stuff. We have plenty of event stuff. Phones and barrels and tables and.
I probably will be.
I don't know if we have like 40 games, but
I know, I'm like, I have some croquet and bocce, like we're just,
If you guys,
Actually, we have-
if you guys need access, we can
Yeah.
park the events trailer in the park and you guys can just kind of grab
that would
stuff.
be amazing. Thank you. I will
Just
definitely be
touch base with me and we can make that happen.
perfect. Thank you.
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right. So this was just gonna be an open time for public comment on middle school tennis courts and Wickham Field renovation. Gonna kind of roll this into the project updates too. So I don't know
If
if
there's any comments from the
Yeah.
public or questions?
I was hoping you covered the Clean Lake stuff because I can't stay for very long, but I think there was questions. on
Okay.
that.
so that's up to you.
Yeah,
if you-
why don't we do that? Because it doesn't seem like there's anybody here for this, so.
Okay, yeah. Alright, can I go through it all? Go ahead, because I don't think there's
Okay,
anything.
yeah, I mean, I think so what we I think wanted to talk about was, whether we want to commit to funding some funding of Clean Lakes in fiscal year 26. We generally said that we were in favor of that at the last meeting. And so it's mostly a discussion of, do we commit to putting money into the Clean Lakes revolving fund that's being set up, or setting aside in our own funds. Sort of the two pathway, then since we are setting up a revolving fund, or the town is intending to set up a revolving fund that makes sense, and then my thought was that as we get closer to setting the rates for the programs in fiscal year 26 that will do this funding, we can figure the exact amounts and how to do that. But at this meeting, if the commission is in favor of it, commit to providing both to figuring those rates out in the future and then providing those funds to the revolving fund as we go. So that's sort of the setting the table for what we're discussing. Thoughts from the commissioners first, maybe, and
So it's not gonna go into effect until 26 if we approve any rate funding for Clean Lakes and the revolving fund.
well, so the revolving fund is going to be
Set up.
at town meeting.
Yeah.
There, I mean, we can talk about this year's beach fees. But in terms of sort of the larger bucket of money, which is associated with Camp T, there's more activity there, there's more users, more time. Those funds would not be, we wouldn't do those funds until the 26, which would be essentially start collecting those in January.
Yep.
So there might be, we may decide there's something in this year's beach fees, but it would be a much smaller sort of start to that fund.
Yeah, and I said this in the last meeting, I would prefer to have it be something like a voluntary, a checkbox if you want to give money to a donation toward the Clean Lakes Fund. Because, I think Tim and Alicia can speak to this better than me, that we're kind of tapped out in terms of like how much we can raise rates before, are we sort of on that teetering edge of we're raising rates too high, we're going to scare people away, or like, is that your thought? I don't know.
I mean, for the past 3 years, we have been at just kind of a break-even point. Yeah, if you want to put it. So we've raised the rates. We've each year seen by very little numbers come down, but we're at a break-even point. So we're losing families, but the other families are paying more. We're making the exact same amount of money. So that's not really a place where, and if you look at the percentages and everything else, I mean, the percentages almost year to year are within 5%, 3 to 5% in each user group. The number, so if you look, we start off in fiscal year, sorry, there's no 22
Yeah.
at 86. And we'll do families. So we had a total of 841 users. That was everybody in the household. In fiscal year 23, that was when we put the cap of 5 people per family, because we had households that had 12. Everybody was kind of just falling in a thing, and the decision was made. So you'll see that some of that stuff was kind of spread up. There was a little switching. We had couples and individuals. There's some numbers there that kind of changed a little bit. And numbers went up and down. And then as you go to the next year, 24, 23, and 24, you'll notice that we had drops, very minimum drops in each category. And the funding that came in was exactly the same because of how much we had moved the rates up. So there's not going to be a lot of movement there unless we drastically increased everything like they have it over at Nara Park, where it's $300 a season. And that's, where we're looking to get stuff from. That's
See less people, but.
right. So that's really kind of what we're looking at as far as fees go here, to the point of adding like surcharge or something to user groups. There are, we've been doing some research and seeing what other camps, not only locally, but nationally, what there is. It seems to be that that number is about $2 per day. When you break it out. To
Per
add on.
user?
Per user, so it's like $2 per day per user that they kind of break out. So then that would be an increase of like $10 to our camp registration fee if you figured that out. They're down there. So, you can look at that. There's some other creative funding that we can come up with. So that's, the biggest one that we came up with. I think we need to just kind of discuss a little bit more before we put it out there, but reality, if we sit down and have a discussion about it, it's $2,500 to $5,000 that we could possibly guarantee to push that forward and check a couple more boxes of things that have been asked of us as the Park and Rec department to provide.
If we were to put like a $5 surcharge on it, what would, so it would be on 841.
Yeah, I can. So if you did, so you're talking about the beach passes?
Well, I don't know, like I'm just asking the question, like where are we putting the surcharge on everything or just Camp T or?
So ultimately,
we
that's
talking?
something that you all have to decide. Is it the general rule of government that what you do for one, you do for all, right? Or is it that it's just programs that are physically, touching the water? It's ultimately right now, there's a lot of things that go into actually maintenance of the beach, right? We pay.
Rates is what you wanted.
Yeah, I think Kevin
Or
was
the,
looking at this, but
probably the
we were looking at the other thing because
counts.
historical.
Yep.
So if you look at what was that, 350, 354. I mean, you're making, if you added a $5 surcharge just to give you a number, our biggest user group is the families at 354 last year. You're talking $1,700. So if you want $5, you're bringing in an additional $1,700.
Isn't it, I'm sorry, but you have 1,000, right? You have 700 residents and 350 non-residents.
So I'm sorry. Yes, Mark. I apologize. Like I said, there's a rule book where I'm sitting. I apologize. So yes, take that.
So it's $5,000.
So you're talking $5,000 if you increase that. So if you want to, no, I'm okay. Yes. So if you added all that up, hypothetically, there's probably quick math, $7,500 there.
That's assuming we don't lose
Right.
a significant number, so it's probably.
Right. I think if you're talking $5 versus jumping $25.
Yeah.
You're probably, generally when we move something $5, we really haven't seen that much of an issue. Now, if you added $5 to every single person, I think that then we would run into an issue.
No, yeah. Right. And I'm sorry, if you want to go to your other slide, that $5 is basically 10%, right? Those $50. It's a little less, but yeah.
For so a family sticker right now is $90
So
and
it's
a non-resident is 150.
3%, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think before we get to this discussion, just thinking about the funding for next year, which was sort of the main ask. I think we can, as we get closer to next season, we can figure out whether it's sort of $1 per person, kind of what that family, $5 on the family would imply, or roughly that. And then look at the Camp T numbers and other sailing program and those things. I think there's.
And I think just like we talked about in the other meeting, our number shouldn't be arbitrary. As we go through this and we go through the DCR meeting and we figure out what the management plan is and possibly do go out and bid out what an actual plan looks like. Once we have that number in of what the actual annual is going to be, it's probably easier to be able to talk to the public and say, we have this plan, it's right here. The recommendation is we do this treatment and we do X, Y, and Z, just like we do for all of our other projects. And then that's something that we can market when we put out the pass and say, new this year, there's a 3% fee that's being added. And it's for this, and this, read about the project here. And then that way the public knows, and it's not just what we've dealt with in the past where people are like, well, rates are outrageous. And, this is something that we can tie it to. We can have a page on the website. And here is the lake management plan that based on science and based on, what we've been told by the experts is what we should be doing in the future.
And the Tim Pearson, the new conservation agent, that's on his to-do list. I mean, he's just starting, he literally got into that position a week ago. But that's on his.
We have a meeting with DCR on St. Patrick's Day on the 17th.
Any other Norm or Kate? Comments, thoughts?
No, I think the decision's been made to come to different groups and look for funding, right? So it's either way, either taxpayer, either town says the taxpayers are gonna pay it, or we. Either
Which I think
way,
there's a portion of that that is going through the general fund, right? Is that right?
There's a little bit for clean lake. The general fund,
Yeah.
most of it's coming through CPC at the moment. But the CPC monies subjective because
Right.
at a certain point, some of this can be considered maintenance
Yeah.
and CPC doesn't fund maintenance projects.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are looking at multiple sources of revenue. This is one. We've talked about there's private docks that we're when conservation is fully staffed, we'll look at if we can charge for private docks and, we're exploring all alternatives, so.
So one thing I did bring up to Steve in like the dock world. So the DCR did change their entire application process last year. I don't know how kind of you've gotten into that. I apply for dock permits every year for the docks that we take in and out, and like I've been going through that process in the past couple of weeks, and it's a little different. And one of the things I came across, I did hit a wall because we are a great pond and we don't have a harbor master. So in the new process, that's one of the boxes that we have to answer is like, who is this person? 2 years ago, they changed that where it had to be somebody with a police background. It's one of the things that we've been talking about for a long time that we've never addressed. But that's just one of the things when it comes to docks that with the new permitting process that we might have to visit just to make sure that we can actually go through the whole process as well.
You can see it, Tim Pearson wants to go through police academy, but I don't know.
So, yeah,
But what I'm saying is there's private docks off of public land
Right,
that people are putting in essentially for free, and we can charge them for those dock rates, basically. We have not historically done that, so.
Yeah.
You are not the only source of revenue we're looking at.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah, and like I said, I mean, I discussed it a bit with Saul. There's an idea I would like to present to the Conservation Commission prior to kind of putting it out there, but it's a very lucrative kind of revenue source that I think would really help what is being asked right now.
but we would have to work collaboratively.
Yeah.
That's, so we have to talk about that first. Yeah.
and my suggestion is not that you commit to a certain number, right? That you're gonna generate $5,000 or $10,000. Say we're going to put a 3%, 5% surcharge on these passes, and however many passes we sell, you'll get that percentage, right? Rather than, because then you're not eating the money if you didn't sell the passes, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it's about eating them like necessarily like that. The biggest thing that I know you've heard as we've gone down this thing of rates every single year is it would be nice to have a way to tie it back to say, this is our project. Here's where you can look up the information. This is the why behind. It's 3% this year, and maybe we're looking for 5% the following year. So we can just justify that a little better. I think it'll go a long way, especially with the neighbors down there who constantly have that, just need the why.
Right, and the lake management plan is coming. It won't be here for the summer, but
It takes time.
it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
To get that, and it's not cheap to do either.
Yeah.
But, but if you waited until you actually had the plan, then you're gonna be behind on them. You're not gonna be able to fund it right away.
Yeah.
Anyway, so starting to raise the revenue now with the plan of funding what the plan comes up with. Would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, so I think maybe we just have to look at like, is our goal next year $3,000 to $5,000? So as we start to come up with those programming fees in September, that's really where we need to start making those decisions. So that's really like, what's our, that for us, that's what we need to know is like collectively from the group. We know the plans in action, but this year we want to raise this much money.
And though we're following that precipice of not saying we're going to do X, like having that goal helps us figure out what's the best way to be able to get there with a specific percentage.
Yeah,
And I think Camp T is very different, by the way, because you can figure that in, you know, what percentage of the time they're there and figure out a reasonable thing there. Versus the beach fees where you can just say there's a 3 or 5% or whatever. I'm not advocating for one number or another, right? I like to see something because I think it helps, right? And it helps send a good message that we're making progress. On this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we do the trustees membership where we have the thing, it's similar thing that we could add in. I was looking at how that website, you know, was structured and, you know, it could be something that there's a checkbox that, hey, I'm paying this much, but I want to donate an extra 100, whatever it is. So I think that that's something that we could add in as well to just, you know, if there is anybody out there who wants to do something like that. We've gotten donations in the past for, you know, dock improvements and stuff that have been in-kind donations. So something that we could look at similar to that process as well.
But I think, yeah, the main thing I guess I would like to see if we can agree to is that we will commit to providing funds to the Clean Lakes revolving fund for fiscal year 26.
Can I bring up one more thing that I really think is kind of a touchy subject?
Yeah.
So I got the contract last year from the state in installing the boat ramp. So the town does reserve the right to charge for use of the ramp based on that contract. So just like you go to other public boat ramps in other part of Massachusetts, the select board does have the ability, well, and whoever has care and custody can charge a fee for that. Now, it's a great pond, so we still have to give right away to the water. So that's where the conversation gets tricky. But if we were providing access like the new boat ramp that we have on the lake shore, there's still access right away to the great pond that, you know, absolves us of that. And then somebody who's actually trailering a boat or parking on the boat ramp, there could be a fee for that. So that's another thing that you could possibly look at as saying, this is that revenue also then goes to Clean Lakes and Cleaning the Lake.
Okay.
Especially, you know, since that's strictly people who are on the water.
We haven't touched it.
Is that's a select board decision, us decision?
So I am unsure who specifically has care and custody of the boat ramp, even though we've maintained it since it's been put in. All of the funding for all the stone and all the cleanup projects and stuff like that since then have come out of our funds. So that's something that we have to look at.
You need an attendant or the
I mean, at that point, you would need.
Yeah.
an attendant, so you need. It's not all cash.
Nothing's free. It's free to somebody, but not.
Comments from any of the other audience members?
Well, I'd just like to say that last month, and of course, we had a meeting with the finance committee, a couple weeks back. Saul was in on the phone conversation there. This is vital. As I wrote Saul earlier last week, this gives everyone who uses the beach, who uses the facilities, who uses the lake and enjoys the lake, sort of a little skin in the game. and also demonstrates to the other taxpayers who help defray the costs of maintaining Long Lake, that the people who use Long Lake on a regular basis and enjoy it are also contributing, maybe above and beyond what they've been asked to as just the general public. And it's very meaningful. It gives us some leverage when we go back to the to our other funding sources to say that, yeah, we're getting contributions from people who use the lake on a daily basis, who enjoy it every day, who go out and participate. Yeah, and they're happy. They're proud to chip in a few bucks. And we're all only asking for a few bucks. A few bucks from a lot of people makes a big difference. And we're looking at a future management plan, $40,000. You know, so you're talking $5,000 here. We'd have to work for a long time before we can afford that management plan. We have a lot going on and no funding, no sure thing. So we make an appeal to you, and we're dependent on it. We really are. We hope that you can take that money. We hope that you can put it in the revolving fund, because the moment you put that commitment for whatever amount it is in the revolving fund, we can keep that revolving fund. We'll keep you abreast of how that money is spent. You can determine how that money is spent if you so wish, but we'll meet with you before anything's spent. We'll explain exactly what we feel is a high priority. And if you have higher priorities, we'll talk all that out. I think it's your money, you know, so it should be your control, but we need the money. Long Lake needs the money. In Muck Islands last year, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it before. And I hope they don't come back again this year, but they'll be back. There'll be something. It was a bunch of stuff from the bottom of the lake that just came up and got lodged in the lily pads, and sat for 2 years. That's gone, but it'll be back. So again, just an appeal for the health of the lake, that you can do your part, and I hope you do. Thank you.
Dave Barr, Matawanaki Trail. And I'm sorry I missed the first part of this. Maybe it's already been said, I'll just say it briefly, but if you can tell it's already been said, you can cut me off. At the session we had with the town administrators and Mark and others, it was pointed out that if we are able to, if Park and Rec is willing to contribute on a regular basis to a revolving fund, that would allow the select board to make contributions into that revolving fund also. And if we don't have a consistent source like the Park and Rec department, then the select board can contribute to a revolving fund, and everything that they allocate has to be spent that year. So if we have a revolving fund in place, that gives us a bit more flexibility in terms of when things come up or as things change, in terms of how we spend money that we get from the select board.
So I'll clarify that a little
Yeah.
bit. Generally speaking, in the operational budget, there's no monies that go into revolving funds.
Right.
Everything is spent in that year. Right. So we're putting money into the revolving fund this year as seed, but we'd rather not put money into a revolving fund on a regular basis. There is a line item for Clean Lakes, but it's like everything else. It's where it's use it or lose it at the end of the year.
Right.
Right. But to maintain a revolving fund, one of the requirements is you have to have money coming in to it on a regular basis. You can't have a revolving fund that doesn't have a source of income, basically.
What's a regular basis?
Annually, there just needs to be money coming in with it.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
And I don't know how often, but like you can't,
It can be annual money.
you can't have a revolving fund that never has income coming in.
Yeah,
That's one of the,
very useful.
I'm learning about things, these things about municipal finance that I never wanted to.
It's good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll just throw out a couple things. In addition to the $40,000 management plan, you should be aware that the last 2 years, Long Lake received over $30,000 of expenses. It was $32,000 in change for this past year's Muck Islands. It was $30,000 the year before that. So the need and the money being put in from other sources on behalf of Long Lake has got quite a history. And if the last 2 years are indicative, expect that to continue in addition to a new issue of $40,000 to their professional approach and something you're desiring. From the standpoint of, I think there's been a lot of focus on the beach operation for roughly 125K. I'd argue that it's your Camp T at your 555,000. If I remember correctly, the presentation with regard to made to select board and FinCom, it was stated that your Camp T is sold out the last 2 years consecutively. That's despite the fact that you've been routinely increasing those rates approximately $10 to $15 a year. I think your current rate this year is approximately $380 for a week pass. That week pass includes 4 days of 1 hour time periods in Long Lake on Monday through Thursday. Only day excluded from your program is the 5th day, which is your, off-site special field trip day. So 1%, on a 380, $4. I would like you to really consider, a 1% fee to start this off with regard to Camp T. I think the usage of it is very evident in terms of that 1 hour per day for all of the Camp T, participants. And I'll just put out there that if I understand correctly, the Camp T participants, when they're there for that hour, that's where the swim box, they're in the swim box. That's actually taken away from that family membership or the individual membership, et cetera. So I don't want to go too far there, but I want to establish that I think there really is a direct linkage with regard to Camp T utilization. And at $555,000, last year, that's a big chunk of money that a 1% fee can do a lot. And 1% fee, I recognize, Kevin, $5. People are going to notice $5. Is it a second year and a third year? It's going to exist. It's going to be noticed, et cetera. Having said that, if the management plan results in a solution with regard to reducing the amount of expenses needed to support Long Lake, that would be great. But if it doesn't, then the experience is there with regard to a 30 grand fee. And as John stated, where do we come up with that money? So thanks for listening.
So I think again, the piece that I would like to settle tonight is, are we willing to commit to funding the revolving fund that I think gives the select board and town meeting the kind of the clarity that they need to say, yes, we're going to set up a revolving fund, it will have a source of funding. I'm a little less concerned right now because we're not going to set the fees for these programs until the fall.
September.
About the particulars of whether it's 1% or $5 or what the specifics of Camp T and other programs are, but I think that we can just commit to that we're going to provide funds to the revolving fund that we can.
And Saul, can you remind me, revolving fund means we don't have to go to town meeting to ask to spend the money? Is that the bonus of doing revolving fund?
Clean Lakes won't have to go to town meeting, and it's a fund that money can come in and go out of without going back to town meeting. It's not intended as a long-term savings fund. It's intended as an operating fund for sort of the annual in and out. So it's the same thing that we use to bring in revenue from programs and pay out expenses for grants.
But the fund doesn't have to be spent down by the end of the year. That's the difference between that and a normal operational budget.
Okay.
The money stays in there until it's spent.
Okay.
It doesn't. All the other funds, a normal town funds expire June 30th. If you haven't spent them, they're gone. So the revolving fund stays with the program.
The only thing in the past that we've gone to town meeting to approve is like a cap for that, but that depends. There's multiple different types of revolving funds that you could get, which I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of them. And each of them have different rules to it, but the type that we have for our department We do have to vote on a cap. We don't have to go to town meeting. We do that for transparency's sake. But if we really wanted to, we could go to the select board and say, hey, this is what we need our cap to be. And like, okay, or go.
And this is one of 5 revolving funds that we're looking to set up the town meeting this year.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
The senior center has 3,
Oh, my lord.
and the other one's the orchard. We're looking for-
People need help.
I just want to say I can get behind this, but I hope that I see the support when in 26, we have another very contentious beach rates meeting. And I would hope that representatives would then be present for that to help support us when we have those contentious meetings that we've had in the past with any rate increases at the beach, so that we can have someone else, another voice say, well, it was done because of this. So I think as long as we have that support from Clean Lakes and, you know, all the other boards and departments, then I can get behind this. But, you know, I don't want us to be hung out to dry when, you know, we have the 3-hour beach meetings that we've had in the past where we get yelled at for 3 hours because we raised the rates.
That's fair.
I think the other piece too, and you know, as we talk about rates, just in general, John brought up the point that all user groups, right, people who are using the lake the most are helping out. I think the same message goes that like these fees are supporting the management of the beach, management of the lake now. So, you know, every year we have the people who argue, well, I walk to the beach or I do this, you know, and I think it's even now more important to say that, you know, the parking pass is included in your membership to the beach. The actual beach membership that we are charging is for all of these things, including lake maintenance.
Yeah.
Because that's a large portion that are currently not buying memberships and are putting down the highest use time as soon as the lifeguards leave because they can just do that. Right? I think that also needs to be a big part of the message that's pushed forward, that everybody needs to do their part.
To keep it so we can keep enjoying the lake.
Right, yeah, right. Because, you know, everybody in this room knows that at 5:30, as soon as the lifeguards go, that place becomes a zoo. So we, in enforcing that, that's a way, like when you guys are chasing that number, that's the way to increase the number, right? If we tack on 3% and that number grows because everybody's truly doing their part, whether they ride there, walk there, bike there, or whatever else, that's where we're going to see the numbers that you're looking for really start to come to fruition.
Yeah, so we should, once we have the revolving fund and this set up, we should do a PR campaign about, you know, donating to the fund and how it will help.
Paint a painful picture of if we don't.
Yep.
Sometimes it takes pain to.
Yep.
People buy based on emotion. There's my sales spiel.
We'll have Kate making YouTube video.
A little dumpster fire going around there.
There's no more water.
No.
Grass.
So you need a motion?
Yes, please.
Chairman?
Yes, please.
So we need a motion to support the
Commit to
funding
a
the-
Clean Lakes revolving fund
starting in
fiscal year 26.
fiscal year 26.
I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for that. I guess while we're here, should we talk beach fees and operations and?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
You're in charge. Tell me what you want to do. I got you.
You need it for this one?
I don't think so. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Me, 30 seconds. I think in there.
Like his time is up.
Someone's gonna sing.
What?
Somebody's gonna sing if we have a 30-second break.
Happy
There
birthday.
it goes.
Jeopardy theme.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Let's all go to the lobby.
I do think it's very odd that there's going to be like a generation of kids that have like the happy birthday song associated with Washington Hole.
And then you're brushing your teeth, is that something else for brushing your teeth?
I hope you don't sing while brushing your teeth. That's not gonna be.
Something to get that, no, because that's longer too.
It's 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes.
Free bird. It's a free bird. Like brushing your teeth. The long version, the extended LP.
I'm not
So,
ever gonna know that all electronic toothbrush anyway.
You've got your teeth in the back.
That's right.
Those back molars.
People in the back molars. Oh, no fun. Husbands.
Your eye teeth go.
Dave, you can cut this piece out, right?
This is not official business.
yeah.
Let's just get it. Needed that. The day.
What I missed.
Nothing.
Free bird.
Wait, yeah, a lot of bad discussion.
So obviously, we talked a little bit about the fees from last year already and where we might be going in the future. As far as fees, we'll get into that in a minute. The biggest piece is we are chasing a little bit of a deficit from last year. We did projects like the roof that we had. We had a lot of stuff that we bought for sailing program. We had higher costs that were associated with just keeping the entire property kind of going. We had some repairs that we had to do in the bathhouse. So we are chasing a number. So what are things that we can do to kind of try to get that number back to zero, right? How can we start to rein that back in? So number one, season open to close dates, Memorial Day to Labor Day, which would be the 24th. Labor Day is August 31st. Last day for guards, just due to the sports schedule, and now that school is going back prior to Labor Day, we lose all of our staffing. So that's the Sunday prior to Labor Day is typically when we're no longer guarding. Saturday, May 24th to Friday, June 12th, we would do boat rentals, facilities, and memberships from 10 to 6. And then weekends only lifeguards from 12 to 6. So we're pushing that back from our normal 10 time. Typically with youth sports at this time of year, they haven't ended yet. We really don't see high usage of the beach. One of the proposals, and you'll kind of see where I have the asterisks down here. You know, this is during the opening season, but we can also push this to the shoulder seasons. Is our normal opening from June 13th to August 24th. We'll have lifeguards on duty 10 to 6. Sundays, we do 11 because we really don't have a very high use before that. Snack Shack, 10 to 6. The thought was we could possibly open the boat rentals earlier on Saturdays and Sundays, or even later on Fridays, because that's typically when we do have a high number of users, but we're closing earlier based on when we are. So that was something that I wanted to discuss. The other piece was if we could find the right senior or somebody who is capable of moving the boats around and doing those kind of things, you know, we could even push this season for like boat rentals out to the end of September. Because we do get a lot of calls in the office after we pack everything up. You know, do you have paddling? Do you have this? Do you have that? So that's something that I haven't figured out a path forward yet. We don't typically have success getting staffing. I was going to reach out to Liz and see if this is something like a senior tax worker could do, or, you know, is there anybody who is interested in operating the rentals for us during this period, you know, and what does that look like? Does that look like myself or Rachel goes down every single morning and helps this person line up canoes and kayaks on the beach, so they don't have to lift them off the racks and then come back at a certain time and help put them back. Is that 2 people that are just down there and maintain it, and then that way, if anything goes awry, there's at least 2 people. So that's some of the thoughts that we can kind of implement and revisit this year. But as far as, voting on and setting, what I would look for you guys is the season open close dates for now are those dates, the 24th through the 31st. Last day for guards being the 24th. The hours listed from May 24th to Friday, June 12th of 10 a.m. to 6 for boat rentals, facilities, open and memberships. And weekends only lifeguarding from 12 to 6. And then from Saturday, June 13th to Sunday, the 24th, having our facilities 10 to 6 as usual, 11 to 6 on Sundays, and Snack Shack included in those facilities would be 10 to 6. With the idea that, if we can figure out how to make it work from a staffing perspective, maybe we pilot this for a couple weekends on the earlier side and things like that, that we have the ability to make some of those changes as we go through the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're comfortable with having boat rentals and facilities active without having lifeguards there, it seems like we are. So that's what we're doing in the early part of the season. Then I think any time that we can do that and get enough rental activity or snack shack activity to cover those wages, that's probably worth doing.
Yeah, and to the point, we had discussed the membership fee possibly.
Yeah.
That would be a key time to maybe encourage people who might get a rental membership to come down and say, okay, we can guarantee there's boats here at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Because, and if you want to go out for morning paddle, things like that, there's, path forward with that. So just a thought. And like I said, the other thing that we've talked about in the past that has not been received well is staying open later, but a lot of the rentals that we do miss out on are people who are coming after work and want to rent a boat, but we've already packed up and left. So we'd like to play with some of that, especially at the beginning of the season, maybe do a couple test nights, figure it out. I will get into some of the other stuff in a minute, but the main part was for beach operations. This is what we'd like to see you guys support for the year.
Questions? Commissioner, comments?
And it's typical that the guards normally leave, I'm guessing, college and high school and whatnot. So that's typical that they are gone, but the beach is still officially open, but just with no lifeguard on duty sign.
So when I say quote unquote open, we leave the swim box out, and then we'll have the leftover staff come in on that on Labor Day, weekend Sunday, and we pull everything in.
Okay.
So that's the last day we'll do a grab of it. Saturday and Sunday we'll kind of be cleaning everything up, but we don't have enough guards on staff to support that and clean up.
And so if people are there, what's it just a no guard on duty sign?
Yeah, we have 2 A-frames that are up, and there's also signage on the side of the bathhouse and the lifeguard stands.
I'd want to review the rental contract and just make sure that it has the swim at your own risk in there. That's all. Just thinking out loud, sorry.
So as far as you're talking about boats,
The rental form.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
we require everybody, because it's a rental, we require above and beyond state law that they have to have their life jacket
Oh,
on.
yeah, I know,
So,
but it's still. risk.
And it is anyway, because you're outside the swim box.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing, I don't know if they realize that necessarily, but yeah, the lifeguard's domain is within that swim box, not outside.
Sorry. But I'll make a motion if there's no more discussion.
Question?
Oh.
Sure. Sorry. Is there another period there, after August, that, you've got the kind of spring shoulder season, but is there another schedule for the fall shoulder season?
That's what I was saying. If we can, if we could find someone to theoretically open, we would do that. Historically, it's
So
never
currently
happened.
not.
Historically, it's never happened.
Mhm.
We did at one point, try to run programming that was specifically geared towards like senior paddlers and stuff like that. There's a paddling group who took a little bit of an exception to that, in the area, because that was kind of like what they did.
The name or the?
Just a group of people. It was, you know, we had a couple people kind of like, hey, what are you guys doing? You know, we have a paddling group. So it's not to say that we can't do it. It's just in the past, especially like enacting things at the beach we've tread lightly around certain things.
Were they using the boats, but,
They were not, no.
That's just different.
Yeah, just a different group. So we just, this is something we've never done before. So we need to, we would need to find somebody. B, you know, is it somebody who's volunteering their time? Maybe somebody, you know, if we're raising money and it's going towards certain things, we could find some people out there that are, you know, up to be that person, you know. And then the other piece we have to look into is, can it be a volunteer, right? Based on use and time and everything else. What is that person? How are they covered by the town? What does it fall under? So
Right.
those are questions I don't have answers to, but you know, this is something we could, if it's something that, you know, Saul had asked and there were more questions than answers, can it be done? Yes, we just need to figure out how to do it.
And we typically, during the school year, is a harder time for us to find individuals to hire.
Right.
So, yeah, most of the college kids are away, you know. Lots of
And,
people
you know,
have day jobs.
Being park and rec, it's like 90% of our kids participate in sports.
but I mean, you've got boat rentals and such from, you know, late May through early June.
Because the college kids are back.
Oh, I
At the
see.
beginning of May.
Oh, I see.
We have plenty of staff on the front side.
Oh.
The minute the first week of August hits, it starts to be like really, really tough to
Oh,
operate.
yeah, I get it, I see, yeah.
So yeah, we, you know, it's becoming, I think, with the weather, a very sort of prime time to be in the water and be around the waterfront. September is really quite pleasant. So
Maybe you find retired people that'd be interested in that.
that's, I think, worth exploring.
I think that's what we would need to figure it out. And then it's based on, you know, coverage. Is that somebody who can volunteer? Or does it need to be somebody who's employed by the town? What's that rate? Right? Is a retired person going to want to make 1501 as a recreation attendant? Because that's the grade step that they would start at.
Maybe.
You know, all of those things. It's, you know, it's not stuff that we can't do. It's stuff that we have to explore if we're going to use that as something moving forward.
And we've been using the term senior tax worker, so that's kind of the same area as someone that's retired. There are individuals that work, I don't want to say volunteer their time because they get funds taken off of the taxes. So for the hours that they put in, that's something we can do through Elder and Community Services. So, you know, when we can, around the town departments, we do try to use folks that are on that list that are looking for tax
That
or
kind
off
of,
hours.
Yeah, and
Right.
you know, it's typical like clerical positions. We have a couple who cleans castles in the trees for us, but the hours are very limited. Once you hit your max for the year, you're done with it. Yeah. So, you know, to hire somebody for a week's worth of work, that pretty much maxes them out for their hours for the year.
Jeez.
Oh,
All right, it's uphill in both directions.
Motion?
Yes, please.
All right, a motion to accept the beach operation hours and dates as discussed.
That's good.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's
And I
where
do
we
think,
going.
do we want to, just while we're discussing that, do we want to ask Tim to look into September options for September operations?
Oh, for like,
Already
next
on it.
month?
I already have a
Yeah.
whole slide for you.
Okay, good. All right, that's fine.
I didn't have the answers to back it up, so
Okay,
we will discuss that, in the next meeting.
but I think just trying to get are we all think that that's a good idea, I guess?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, trying to do a shoulder season. Yeah, it's worth piloting anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. Yep, good. Proceed.
All right, so 2025 beach operations, like I said, when Twin Lakes was here, we haven't really seen an increase or a decrease as far as like the switching that we've done. The changes that we've made, the biggest one has driven off our higher rate of non-residents. We've always had they are the highest fee that we charge. So we've kind of scared them off a little bit with where we're at. And if you look at the numbers, we're really almost a perfect break even point. It's like $39,000 that we're at right now.
You want me to?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
It's, so if you all wanted to look at anything, I think that if we want to increase revenue a little bit, going to a flat $100 or even $99 for the resident fee, would probably where my suggestion would be this year. We're kind of in line with most of the other places that are of the same size as us, with the exception in our park, which just is absolutely like above and beyond anyone. We are right in line with like Mirror Lake, Silver Lake, all of similar ponds, similar hours that are open in the area, which, as you guys all know, going through this, that, that's always the question. That's always the litmus test. What are similar places charging? And we're still right there. As far as our parking rates and our daily rates, very similar to other places still. We talked about it last year. Is there any, viability in charging more for daily parking? It's really kind of, like I said, that's daily parking is kind of the same thing. And we do, tell people save your receipts. And if you get to a certain point, you can have an annual pass. So I think we're very fair with that process as well.
You can actually do that?
We do.
Okay.
We probably have 4 or 5 a year.
Okay.
And then as far as resident versus non-resident rates, same thing. If you're just paying for the day, that we're well below what a lot of places charge for 1-day use. The only piece that I did not consider prior to tonight's conversation, and it might be would want to really look at it and say seed money. I mean, we could start and say, hey, we know this is coming down the pike and we want to add that 3% in this year, and we could be proactive and start, filling those coffers. Based off of that conversation, if it's $3 to $5, I think that's very reasonable. I would suggest that, the non-resident rate comes down to 145. We back that out a little bit and we say the 3% is already kind of in there because there's so much, they're higher. And then we, like I said, bump that resident rate up to include that percentage. But if that's what you guys are thinking, it does help us get to our goal a lot quicker. And it's the one thing we can be proactive about this year.
I hesitate. If we're gonna most likely raise rates for 26, I would hesitate to raise rates this year and then raise rates again next year. And I think, the financial climate this year is pretty volatile. So I don't know that I would want to do any rate.
To clarify, I'm saying we make the rate raise, we do it this year. So next year it's just already in place. My suggestion would not be to double down on it.
Oh, I see.
So now instead of coming up next year and having a little bit, we say we're gonna make this height. Because then it gives us a year. I guess I look at it after the conversation is it gives us a year not only to raise seed money, but it also gives us a year to have public knowledge, right? We can spend this year informing people hey, this is what this is for. It's added into the thing already. And then we can start to have that conversation. We can have it on the website. Just something to put forward as we had that
Yeah.
conversation. It was just popping into my head as something that we could do as a proactive measure.
I mean, I would hesitate to do that until they sort of have a better
Well,
understanding of what they're going to, so we can say, well, there was this percentage raise that's going towards Clean Lakes Revolving Fund to fund XYZ. Right? Isn't that what that plan is for? The 40,000 was to sort of create a plan moving forward to do work and maintain the lake?
yes, but I think there's also just a need to have. I mean, there's gotta be a plan, but I think it helps just to have the funds there.
I'm thinking like, the lake management plan. Let's say there's a shortcut on the engineering costs. Now there's a little bit of money there that, is like, hey.
Right.
It's, like I said, I'm walking through that, it just popped into my head, and this year, this is the only thing that we could be proactive on because everything else is set.
Yeah, and I think with this, particularly because we're gonna collect most of this, well, a healthy chunk of this before the end of the fiscal year. We just say, if we decide to do that, we set aside that amount in our revolving fund and decide what to do with it later. If it gets to a point, we like the plan that they have, we can transfer it to the Clean Lakes. If we need to help with management plan or something else, then it's just there. We have control over it.
I will say that I am very interested on where they got the 40,000 number, because my research showed that it was probably, what they say, anywhere between 2,500 to 7,500 per acre. So Long Lake is 113 acres. Just saying.
Yeah, no, that's
So that's a big,
maybe,
that's just what-
I don't know, I don't know where that came from, but we'll see.
I guess I look at it as we haven't had many opportunities to like control the narrative, have the ball in our court, and put a clear path forward when it comes to these things. And I think if we said, we've already committed to 26, we're gonna be proactive, because who's to say that in 26, that, to your point, things aren't even more volatile in a financial situation. And at least then we're saying we're not raising rates for 2 years. We're not getting to that point. We're gonna find other paths forward.
Did we hold rates last year?
yeah.
We did,
Did we?
no.
No.
So last year, the change was the rates were the same, but we limited the number of household participants.
It was 6, it went down to 5.
No, it was unlimited and it went down to 5.
Okay.
But okay. Yeah. But the sort of the top line rates stayed.
So the top line rate stayed the same. It's just now, if you had over 5 people in your household, you were
Right.
paying that additional $10. So yes, the rates went up if you cross that threshold.
Right.
We are also very gracious about the fact that if you want to add grandma on as a babysitter, you can put her under the family. We don't charge for an additional senior membership and things like that. So we have a lot of latitude that we really do help in those situations.
So do you still want to mill on prices? Do you want to make a decision tonight? You know,
When do we typically publish this?
Yeah,
So we typically start selling beach passes May 1st.
Okay, so we've got
We could theoretically kick this around and
until,
put this out there live on the website, maybe like we normally do. I'm still waiting for all the stickers to come in. I'm still waiting for the
Okay.
security tags to come in, all of the things. They are all purchased with the idea that we don't actually start handing them out until
May 1st. Oh,
Memorial Day weekend.
oh, okay.
So yes, we start publishing things on the website, and there is the ability to start sending in your family photos if you've never had a membership before. we front load like all the hard work for us and start printing cards and doing that kind of stuff. So yes, that we have time.
And if we were to go to, say, from 90 to 95 for a family, would that get us, because you said 95 or 99. 95 seems easier to swallow than 99, because 99 is just like, it's $100.
It's under $100.
But you know, people will say, they will say it's
The magic Costco number.
That 9 or.
yeah, but they'll say it's $100. You know, the opposite will come out.
But it's, and that's where I made this statement earlier. It's $100, yes, but it's going to this cause. It's not,
Right.
we're not charging an extra arbitrary $100. I mean, the other thing is we're chasing $47,000 and we're not charging an extra arbitrary amount that's going to go. We're not charging it because we're putting it towards X.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I can see, because we are chasing the deficit, I could see going to. I don't know if it's 99, but yeah, going to 99 with 5 of that committed to Plain Lakes and the other just being our trying to bump revenue up. What I'm struggling with right now is dealing with the other. Do we want to be at 31 for an individual, or clean numbers are nice, but
It's funny, I was thinking that too, just add a dollar
So
to
let me-
everything.
Let me do this. I will create a spreadsheet and I'll put different percentages and see how they just come across the board for each user group. And then based on that information, you all can look at that and we can say, this is where we're comfortable at. And very similar to the very first time that we did this, we went back and forth for quite a while and said, this is what a senior should be, this is what a family should be. And those numbers are as scalable as we could get them, but they're not necessarily perfect.
Yeah.
It's not 3.5% across the board. It's not, you know, we worked those numbers and massaged them around a lot, and we highlighted it on that sheet and said, this is where we feel like we want to be for this.
And Tim, the one at 150 for a non-resident family.
Yep.
You're thinking that rate is deterring people and maybe going to a different lake? Because you talked about maybe going down a little bit for.
So I was just saying, like, that number it's $50 a head, where we're at for a resident rate. Can you switch to that other slide real quick? So if you look at the numbers, and it's, no, go back up to that. So if you look at the numbers, right, and you look year to year, so non-resident family. So it's 356, we dropped to 354. If you look where we were, and those rates were only $20 apart back in 2022, we had 433 families,
Okay.
right? That number took almost a 75 member hit when we jumped the rates up to 150.
Okay, and I see, yeah, it's 356, is that what that says?
Correct.
Okay.
So we went from 433 to 356.
And what
That was
the
our
price
first
jump?
rate jump to 130. I don't have it in front of me, I
remember,
apologize.
sorry.
I'll put that in the thing too. And then we went, I believe it was 130, and then we went another $20. But I'll
For
verify those
24.
numbers.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
just-
know those off the top of my head, but we did have jumps each year.
I'd also be curious to know, I know we're looking at what other lakes charge and all that, and kind of their ballpark for what their non-resident is.
Look at that last
And
slide.
if their numbers have decreased as well, like, is it some trend that we're not thinking of? It's not rate release, like COVID, it was coming out of COVID, everyone's like, yeah, and now people are like, oh, I didn't do
Yeah.
something different.
there's a little bit of that, because
Yeah.
the resident
Yeah,
also dropped a similar amount. Right?
I just don't want to say it's all
How much
based
did we
on
bump
the
resident up
fee.
to?
It could be other things.
Yeah, it was similar. We had
Like 60
it was like
60 to
3 or
90
4.
or-
Yeah. And that's why I said, like, even though we bumped those rates up those 2 years, we were flat on revenue, like almost to the dollar.
Okay, sorry, and this is,
No,
what are we
So this
looking
is
at?
all of the other lakes
Okay.
for this season. So Mirror Lake in Devons, Forge Pond in Westford, Nara Park in Acton, and then they have an Early Bird and a Late Bird, and then Centennial Beach in Hudson. So very similar type experiences to us and where they're kind of fitting into where it is. Westford is looking at changing their policy. They did reach out to us and ask kind of how we did things because they're running into similar issues that we ran into 8 years ago, where just mass people are showing up and, you know, how do they manage that? How do they pay for lifeguards? You know,
I don't think they do lifeguards.
what's that?
They don't do
Not yet.
lifeguards.
Sorry?
They don't do lifeguards.
They don't. There's no lifeguards in Westford or Chelmsford.
Right.
But the Westford Rec Department did reach out, because they have had conversations. I don't think that they actually put anything to action on it this year.
They had a meeting, their meeting in January, they discussed it, and I haven't been able to find any minutes or a recording.
I can ask Michelle,
Yeah.
but to my knowledge, I don't think they made a decision. They did have that meeting, but
Yeah.
I don't think anything came out.
Okay,
And they haven't published their 25 rates yet, so.
So, yeah,
No,
so I mean, if you look at the rates, just the daily rates
None of
alone.
these are 25 rates.
All right, no,
So in the grand scheme of like who's closest to us, it's really Mirror Lake.
okay.
And when you look at where they're living as far as their prices, we're in line, but we're below them.
And so their season pass 5 people, is that regardless of where you reside then, that 180, do we know?
Yes, there's
Okay.
no residency restriction.
just-
It's just here's the
That's
tax.
the rate.
And that's a way like a lot of pools operate that way.
Okay, okay, thank you.
So any of the ones that are split up will have the difference between the resident and non-resident. Otherwise, in general, there's just a rate, it's whoever you are.
And
wherever
another
you're
thing,
from.
like I said, you know, when you come into this world, so the parking is not applicable at Mirror Lake, but they charge a higher daily rate. Their adults are $10 per adult, so if you most likely have 2 adults coming in a car, you're paying $20 plus you're paying $7 for every child.
Yeah.
Our rate is, it's a flat rate for the car of $20, but then, and the drivers include it, but then it's $3 or $4, depending on if you're resident or non-resident. So similar, we're in line. It's a little bit of a different look because they're not charging a parking fee. They're hitting you with and they have a higher rate on the weekends as
They're
well.
hitting you with just the fee in general.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then, so they're $18 an hour for boats, for 20. So. So the last thing I just want to kind of add, if you can go back to the financials.
Here?
Not this one, because we're going to keep going down to, please. So as you guys can see, we had a deficit last year. We had expenditures, wages were abnormally high, which I'm working on figuring, that was part of the reason I said, hey, let's look at changing some of these hours that were open. We've also had at this point, we've had like a 90-something% retention rate. So everybody has grid stepped. Not only have we come up to $15 minimum wage, but now we have almost everybody on our staff who is at least 2 to 4 years. So they're higher up on the scale. Fortunately, we do have a pretty decent retention rate this year. So we're kind of now at some point where, you know, now we're in the 3 to 5 range, but I am looking at how we're going to mitigate those costs and what changes we're going to make. If you can move to the next slide. These are just kind of all of the pie charts. Obviously, you guys can look at these in greater detail. So you have our kind of where we're at. Programming was $50,000, and I'm rounding numbers just so everybody knows. Memberships were $43,000, and boat rentals were $5,000. Our staffing and expenses, so our wages were almost $170,000, while our expenses were at $53,000. Our boating rentals are up here, and part of the reason I talked through this with Saul this morning, you know, there's definitely opportunity for some of those early morning times or shoulder seasons or things like that to increase what our actual usage percents are. And then obviously resident versus non-resident pass holders. Other opportunities that we have to kind of look at like where can we increase revenue, how can we do better? We've talked about it for a couple of years, and I think we have 4 nights that I can lock in now. Where we do like a food truck, live music, and possibly a liquor license under the sailing tent on Thursday nights. Keep the entire beach open a little bit later on those and kind of make it an event where we drive revenue. We work with the food trucks and actually get a kickback. We are at the point where every time we have a food truck, they sell out. So we are in that world where we can say, okay, it's not just free anymore. We're going to do some revenue profit sharing. The other pieces that I've looked at are utilizing the sailing tent for like art and craft nights, similar to what we do in Park and Rec right now, where they do them in the multi-purpose room. We could do like a sea glass night or a, painting night on the beach, different things like that. What's that?
Like sea glass night, yes. I want in.
So, things like that. And then lastly, the biggest one that I think is super easy for us to do is Friday nights, Saturday and Sundays offer Friday night offer 1 and Saturdays and Sundays offer 2 or 3 birthday party rentals that include wristbands and lifeguards for the Camp T side of the beach when we're in those slow periods. We can even work, because we get discount through Sub Shop on pizza where they can pre-order all that stuff. It's there, it's ready to go. We can have, 2 of our rec attendants man that. So that in everything, that's like the most hands down, low hanging fruit revenue driver that we could put in place this year. That's something that, is pretty turnkey and it's easy to kind of mimic from other places doing it. I think moving forward in the future, something that we've discussed that we really need to look at it for fiscal year 26 is not just at Long Lake, but Bay Park and Castle in the Trees, making a significant purchase and putting in some type of like municipal government style pavilions that we can, then people can get on our website. They can rent a picnic table with a cover. They have the permit. They can utilize it for X number of hours. And rather than it being a blanket $25 to rent the entire park, this is now the space that we're creating and it's yours and this is what it is. So that's kind of chasing that number. Those are the things that I think there's certain things that are very attainable for this year that we can really put in place and we can really buckle back down on where we're at with our expenses with our staff expense. I think we can really easily save about $20,000 by some of the changes that were suggested on the first slide.
So in that 53,000 expenses number, is there anything in there? Well, I know you said there was some
So we had 5,000
repairs and stuff last year. Is there?
Yep, there was about 5,000-ish. That was the roof that we redid. There was about $2,000 worth of plumbing stuff. We had to replace some of the faucets. There was a couple other things that we had to do inside the bathhouse. We talked about it earlier. I'm not sure if any of that number absorbed any of the walking path. We had a quick conversation, but our day kind of got sidetracked today. So we really didn't get a chance to really look into that. A lot of it just came down to the fact that sailing was a little bit expensive last year. We had a lot of boats we repaired. We bought some new sails, things like that. And then yeah, I think that's we did all of the upgrades to the snack shack because we had an ADA compliance. So we had about $3,000 for the railings and everything else that I put up in order for us to be able to open, to address the needs.
Yeah.
And we did sand last year, so that was about $3 grand. So there are certain things that we'll dial back in, and we'll get this number back to hopefully net zero this year, moving forward, and really kind of figure it out.
So I guess you're gonna
Oh, and fishing, that was a new program, so invested about $2,500 in all the equipment we need to get that going, so that was a large expense that this year. We do have some fishing poles and stuff that we need to replace, a couple of lures, but we're talking more like in the hundreds of dollars than the thousands of dollars to meet those needs, and that program should be self-sustaining this year.
So you're gonna come back with in the next couple of weeks, say,
So I will make it a top priority for next week to get that spreadsheet put together and get it to you guys so we can make a decision.
Like an ops for shoulder season. And the percentage spreadsheet.
And then I think everybody just needs to think, should we be on board with being proactive as far as like how much of that goes? Obviously, we're chasing a deficit. It'd be great if we could say, okay, some of this is going in to the operations because it has to. Part of me is like, really like, if we can start having this good faith, if you will, and we're starting off with this money and we're putting it aside because this is the charter and this is the goal, that we can maybe win some other people over who don't buy passes, and we can say, hey, we're really trying to get to this point. Can you help us out?
And I think your idea of having either a checkbox or a donation box on the checkout page would be a good one.
So I've got to follow up on that one because I think that you have to ask the select board for permission to ask for donations.
Okay.
So let me look into that, and then if that's the case, then I will get that on a select board.
Yeah, and even if it's not a checkbox, we can do with what we do for holiday helpers, where on that landing page on the website, it could be donate here, and it takes you to a separate thing.
Yep.
It'd just be easier to capture it in that moment.
Right.
Not that we can't set up both.
Okay.
So April meeting.
Yes.
Circle back.
All right.
Where the heck were we?
I think we were on tennis courts.
Yes, nerds. Sorry, Tim.
Nope, it's okay.
How's your voice going?
It's going great.
Okay.
Sorry to take everybody's time. So this Thursday, we have the planning board meeting. To be a little more proactive, I did go door to door to 9 houses last week. I only spoke to one of the residents and have not heard from anybody else. I did draft a letter just saying, hey, this is the project. The notices came out from Activitas as well as the planning board. If you guys have any questions, we are going to create some time tonight to come and ask questions if you have them, or please reach out via email or phone. The letter had QR codes on them to both the Park and Rec project page and the planning board project page. So it was very easily accessible if they didn't have access to that, as well as I updated the most updated site plans with numbered upgrades that we're doing at both locations that we had created the day before. So we're there. As far as planning board meeting, the one thing that came up that wasn't initially expected was we were required to pull a stormwater permit. After some review of all of that, Marin had requested that there was a peer review for the engineering documents, which came in at just under $5,000. And Ryan worked with Steve Yonley and Highway covered the cost out of some money that they had for things. They were authorized to deficit spend for fertilizer and stuff like that if that money impacted what they were going to need to spend for that. So that was taken care of, and the peer review should have been completed and be presented on Thursday. I don't know if that actually happened, but that was the timeline that we were given. The other piece is that Ryan had authorized for our town council. So Jeannie is working with Holly to come up with the legal pieces that are required on the bid documents. The bid documents as far as the questions that were asked were to the effect of, does the town have something, or do we want to use the Activitas piece? The other pieces were Quarry checks, which we had already said that anybody who comes on site because it's school property, there are programs going on. It's mandatory that everybody's going to be Quarry checked. And there's some other things, if you go back and read those emails, that if you have any questions, please let me know. Once we get through the planning board process, we were expecting 1 meeting. We're kind of now thinking it might be 2 meetings based on the stormwater permit. That we will have the bid documents finalized and we will maintain our construction schedule. As far as going out to bid, we have to define where the public bid opening is going to be and do some of that other stuff, but we are looking really, really good. One of the pieces I reached out to USTA again, because they've been kind of like absent in the whole process, even though they asked to be a part of every step of the way. So I'm trying to get a hold of the engineer that was given to us to say, hey, where are we at? What are we doing? We did move some stuff around. We cut some stuff from the budget. Right now, it is looking like we are going to hit our number. We have pretty significant contingencies built into that. So we do have specific ad alternates, which are the covered dugouts at this point. Originally, we had an ad alternate that was going to be for the batting cages, but we did reach out to an entity who had originally done the batting cages at high school, and they're working through it where they're going to figure out the process and probably take care of that piece of the project for us, which will lift a substantial amount of the what we're looking for ad alternates in that project. Just going back to the tennis courts.
And the USTA application is already in, or?
It is, that was something that we had done it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Which is why they said, we want, at that point when we were given like the rules.
Right.
So, the representative has been included in every email. Activitas has also reached out. They've worked in the past with it. So we've done everything that we've been required to do to this point. So updates for the tennis courts. As we used to have a perimeter walkway, we're now just doing the frontage along the driveway as well as the side. So we'll have a walkway between the multi-use field there and the tennis courts. The biggest update that you'll see here is based off of the impervious surface. There's now this big storm retention area right here. So very similar to what's kind of in the back area. It's much more narrow, but it will be there on the Aphrodite line. So that's something that I think we figured out we may have to like relocate / move like 4 or 5 trees, but still unsure. We're waiting for the engineering report to come out. But that's what the tennis courts are.
And the orange one here is the approximate property line, and the yellow border is that 15-foot minimum. And
so, yep.
And those courts are the prime direction or whatever we talked about last time.
They're a couple degrees off,
Okay.
but it's the best we can do for the site
Okay.
without moving the parking lot and the driveway.
Oh, God.
It's
Yeah.
really all we can.
Okay.
They should be tilted a little bit to the right. So as far as baseball goes, we cut out a lot of the pathways that were originally proposed. Now we just have the key pathways coming off of both crosswalks from the parking lot and the Dawson Street School area. There will be player areas as well as spectator benches. If you look to the right of the draw, the last like little square on the end of the fence behind first base is the pad for an equipment shed. And the tan area will be the bullpen / batting tunnel. This will be a fully fenced in backstop. It will be 8 feet tall, and then it'll connect to net, which will run to 40 feet tall. To hopefully prevent some of the foul balls and stuff that go out into, or the foul balls that are going backwards and hopefully helping some of those cars. There's also signage in here that says parking at risk, yes, that we've included. And then you have your actual outfield fence with padding on it, the yellow padding on the top, with your corner 20-foot foul poles that'll be out there. So that's, the upgrades to Wickham that we're gonna have, and, it's in our budget.
Just, I wanted to go through
Carry
the,
on.
yeah, the schedule really quickly, so like Tim had already said, we do have that public hearing, with the planning board tomorrow, on Thursday night. The bid documents will be available on April 8th, so this is like, we're still on schedule right now, which is really fantastic. The opening of those bids will be on April 24th. They will mobilize construction for tennis the day after school closes, so on the 17th.
18th now.
Oh, it's 18th.
Snow day.
Snow day.
Yep.
Okay, so add that extra day in there. So then the substantial completion should be, we're gonna say second week of August. And then the baseball, they're gonna start working on July 30th with the substantial completion being the end of September. So Activitas has been fantastic to work with. We're doing a really good job staying on schedule, so good, doing good.
So both of these projects will be ready for the spring season.
Also,
Spring.
next spring.
So the tennis courts will be
Yeah.
available for the, yes, I'm sorry. Tennis courts will be available for the fall season, which is the shorter season. And then the Wickham will be ready for the spring season.
Yeah.
So we'll have to plan with the select board and some sort of a dedication, or I don't know. I guess that's one thing that we do need to possibly talk about as far as Wickham Field is the rededication. How does that look? Tennis courts, is there a thing that we want to do something? That's a conversation I think that everybody needs to start kind of thinking.
Can we get somebody to pay to sponsor it?
I'm not at that end.
Name everything. Name the tree, name the
Exactly.
bench, the Kevin Medrano tree.
John lobbied for years, so,
Name the batting cages.
The CAS zone.
yeah. Sorry. So can I just add one more thing?
Sure, yeah.
Just so everybody awares, like. Baseball is going right after us for the lighting project on Jet.
Oh, right.
We've made it very clear that there are two independent projects and that baseball is a gift project. So just in case anybody gets any questions about that, on the planning board notice, it all went out as on one picture. So we are gonna go with Activitas, because what we are the request we are asking for is a site plan amendment. To make things easier, they're requesting a site plan amendment of our site plan amendment, so it's just like one fell swoop kind of thing.
Okay, so lights for the baseball site.
Or Jet.
Jeff,
No,
softball field,
Oh, softball field.
not Wickham, that's why I'm being very clear.
No,
It's
no,
not
but
saying-
the lights for the baseball field are part of this project. No?
No,
So
Oh,
the baseball
No
field
lights.
is not getting lights right now,
okay.
Jet Field, baseball has had lights in escrow, if you will, since they were gifted money from the state. And this just seemed like an opportune time for them to also do the gift project because we're going to have construction fencing up, we're gonna have access to the site, and it just kind of all seemed that it would work and be minimally invasive, and both fields will be back online for the spring season. So they said, hey, are we gonna partner? Norm can speak to more of the semantics. We've stayed out of it because we didn't want the two things to intermingle, because as a gift project, there's things they don't have to achieve that we as the town have to achieve.
so they are separate.
So softball will have lights, baseball will not.
Correct.
And then quick summary.
Anything else there?
That was that might be the one question that comes up, if you guys keep, that's, yes.
Everybody's gonna assume that that everything's getting let.
I think that thought has already been out, but that is not the case. Just, yes.
To answer your question, if we did in the future, like Wickham, the only abutters are the town. It's the school department and the town
And alumni already have
as
those.
lights.
Yeah.
And going back, not on tennis or baseball, but soccer, we couldn't do those lights because of the sinkhole, right? So that fell apart. Or
No, that was
No.
just. There were various reasons. One of which is like, we would have had to use these lights in order to kind of meet our cost on that.
Yeah. And the sinkhole, that's already been fixed by the way. Okay, so 36 King Street. They're moving along. I just wanted to share some pictures just from past till now. There's been a lot of really big changes. Especially in the last like 2-3 weeks. So at this point, I think we're still looking at that delayed opening time, which is going to be the end of June. I still think there's a lot of variables out there with arrival of certain items that still could potentially push that back further, but right now we are, kind of hovering in stasis, I guess we can say. So, a lot of the, so like you saw on the previous one, a lot of the drywall is up, has been mudded, and painted already. So a lot of that, and the flooring also has been, laid. So, the office photo, if you look at the bottom, it had the carpet, the one on the top now has the, I guess we'll call it like laminate flooring that looks like wood. And has been over the wall fixed and painted and, yeah, it's looking really good. They've done a really excellent job. So we have a meeting tomorrow. If there's any additional updates or any delays, I can send an email.
I just want to be the old man yelling at the clouds right now.
Yeah,
I drive by there every night from
Okay.
during hockey season,
yeah,
and the lights are always on at 10 o'clock at night
in the building.
in the building. It is lit up like a Christmas tree.
Do you know what?
Are they working?
They're not working. It is, essentially, if anyone were to break in, we can see them.
Oh, come on. Okay, I'll take.
A lot
Like
of
I said, I'm
places
just
do
being the
that.
old man backer, not the clouds. That's all.
I hear you.
I would
Yeah.
drive by and be like, oh,
When
they
we,
let's
when
go.
we own the building, I don't know if that's the right way.
Yeah.
Inhabit,
Occupy.
occupy, then we can lock the doors securely and shut them off. I promise to do that.
Just
Put the lights on motion sensors.
Everything.
Then you know when they.
exactly. Thank you. That's the way I go to hockey every night. So it was like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
To
Groton School. I go the way
You
through
go that
there.
way,
I go
okay.
through Air Center. Yeah.
Alright. Alright, so we did all this.
You're probably
Did that.
Huh?
So that's-
So touch
Yeah.
truck.
No, I saw you once on the other. Sorry.
No problem. Touch truck we have coming up in May. I'm currently working with the Foley company. We have a meeting hopefully tomorrow. That was when they said they were going to get back to me. To figure out logistics. There is some work that's being done that may cause this event to be shrunk. Slash, we don't really have a moving spot, but I think we got a good plan forward. They've been having to work with. So I will give an update and that will come out as well.
All right, here we go. Let's see if I can do this quickly. All right. So we've hit that point. This is just revolving funds, just that we're looking at. So we've hit that point where we balanced back over again, so we're doing good, even though some of these funds are still dedicated to the next fiscal year. But we're no longer in a close to negative balance, so, we're looking pretty good. Yeah, January and February were the two, I think, of the biggest months we've ever had. So a lot of people have been, getting that stuff in early, which has been really good, a big change.
With the exception when the accounting department forced us to take all registration in 1 month, January was our standalone. January was our standalone largest month that we've ever had in our tenure here.
Yeah.
Since we started tracking this revenue through Monterey.
Even
Right.
before that.
By a long shot.
Yeah.
Good.
So is Camp T sold out?
No,
No,
not yet.
I have.
Get them in,
What drove
get it in. If you want it guaranteed, you're welcome in.
Just programs in general. All of our programs have been very successful. Kelsey and Rachel have done a good job, bringing in some weekend programs. Our other programming has come in. We had some, our summer camps in general, our sports programs, our regular camp is doing very well. And obviously there, our annual increase, this number is increased to the point that, the numbers that we speak about are gross numbers. 50 to 75% of this money is going straight to expenses, the largest being like $250,000 worth of staff payroll. So when we look at, these numbers as a whole, yeah, they're great, but most of that's not going anywhere but right back out the door.
Yeah. I guess I should say any questions. So we have our conference coming up, not this week. Next, oh my gosh, it's next week. That's crazy. 40 years of MRPA, that's amazing. Tim, myself, and the program coordinators will be attending. Our office coordinator will still be in the office. So the office will still be open and running programs as normal. I know last year we kind of closed it out. That was sort of a special thing that we did since we had new staff. So just a heads up that, those 3 days, it's just gonna be a full person in the office essentially. I mean, you can still reach us by email and phone, but we will physically be on site.
Where is the?
Now
4 seasons in Norwood. We've been there the past, this will be our 4th year.
The program coordinator position, so it was posted last week. Its closing date is today, so hopefully we can give you guys an update relatively soon. With that.
Do we need to do anything? In the past, we've either delegated to you guys hiring authority or a hiring committee.
We don't have to do that yet. I think if we,
So you're posting internally, right?
yes.
That's where we started.
Yeah, we can always have like a special meeting just dedicated to that, which
Okay.
can take like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's something that we need to do, then I'll reach out. And then just CPC, this is stuff you guys have seen before with the, I actually use this for the capital budget. But this is essentially the same information, so we're requesting an additional 15,000 to be able to finish the dock project. We started this a couple years back, and we were able to buy the section of the dock that we have the sailboats on. We did get funds last year. But the issue that we had is, we calculated a 6% inflation rate, and it actually came in at, what the heck was it? With 15% increase instead of 6. So
Now
did
it's tariffs.
I was gonna say they're not going to.
the Canadian,
Now there's
Canadian
tariffs.
tariffs. Oh, great, yeah.
Canadian dogs.
Fantastic. So-
They're not on plastic yet.
So yes, this is something that would help us get the additional funding needed so that we could put in a new, it shows that sort of plan up there. I know in glare, it's hard to see, but people online can see. There would be the straight dock that would go, typically has lived in the swim box. And kind of cuts down the middle and allows for faster reaction time for our lifeguards. Additionally, the T would be a fishing dock that we would put over on the conservation side. And then the square would be to replace the deep dock that we've had for so very long, and is definitely in need to be replaced. It's been around for probably longer than I believe. So yeah, so that's CPC, we'll do that presentation on March 19th. And that gets approved, then that will go to the town meeting in spring. And then hopefully we'll be able to get the funds to complete the project.
And there are funds available now for some portion.
That's correct. Yeah, so
$47,300
it's-
or something.
Does that get you a truckload or is that?
So that got us most of what we were requesting. Yeah, it was most of what we needed. There was definitely some stuff that we could take off, like the T on the fishing dock. I think the extra stuff gets us the T on the fishing dock and the deep dock. So.
and I think we had to shorten.
And just so everybody's aware, it was told to us that even though this has been something that we purchased and this is what we talked to CPC, just because of the amount that we're talking about, it all needs to go back out to bid. So I am working on that process. I'm currently doing porta potty bids, bus bids, custodian bids, and this will be one of the bids that we'll put back out. The nice piece about this is we can be pretty specific on what we're looking for and just kind of, there's only really 2 companies in this game who have this, and
this
we can
style.
figure it out from there.
Yeah, and I say we should plan on spending what we have either way.
Yes,
Yeah,
agreed with you. That's what I'm
whatever
saying.
we get. is what we
Either
get.
way,
Yeah.
if we don't do this, you're gonna lose the T piece and you're gonna lose the square.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we can manage,
We did get comment / question about where we store them.
saw that.
And I said, so 2 pieces of that, you've got your applications for docks, installations. Does have to be temporary, or can they stay in year round? What's the?
So we apply for temporary dock permits. The actual physical docks, these wouldn't qualify for because of the way the piers are.
Okay.
And these docks are not meant to really stay in all year, especially with the ice movement that we have. We've had 2 mild years that, we probably could have gotten away with it this year, definitely not. To bend the poles, push everything, plastic, so it's got a little bit of memory to it. So if it does get bent, we run the risk of we don't have it. So I can ask that question. I don't think that I think we need to find a completely different system if that's what we're gonna look at.
In general, I would say for longevity, which is, we've been trying to
Yeah,
build this
sure.
dock up for a long time. I would say it makes a lot more sense to have it out of the water than during.
I would also think that, it's plastic. If we leave it out during the winter, people are gonna be on it with ice skates and puncturing holes in it, whether intentional or not.
Pretty,
And our picnic benches out there in the water frozen in.
yeah. Yes.
So,
Well, that might have been, a dock might have alleviated some of that.
Well, the other thing that it does is it also gives people access to deeper water where it could be an issue.
I mean, particularly down the middle of the swim area, there's no deep water there. At a little-
You're talking about, and you're talking about consciously walking into 1 inch of water and then going into chest deep water.
I don't think you're chest deep at the end of that dock, but anyway.
You may not be, but a child will be.
Child, okay, that's different, but.
I think the cost that they were in there this winter, they would have got trashed.
Yeah,
100%.
that's,
The only other choice is irrigate it, but then you're leaving open water.
You know,
we had an open water hole that was put there intentionally, so.
That's
there were
that's
cones
the,
though.
There were codes, right?
it's the fad, the cold water.
Yes, I know.
Everybody jumps on the cold water.
Click input.
Yeah. The public's all abandoned us.
New business, Tim Pearson sent out, I think I forwarded it on to you guys, that DCR is doing a lake management discussion. That Clean Lakes will be at, it is on St. Patrick's Day at 1 p.m. If there's going to be more than 2 park commissioners attending, then I would need to put in a, agenda, since that would be the one on, right,
I mean-
law, so.
Yeah. I don't know, I will try to attend. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Pete
I think
said he
Peter
was
was
gonna
going
be
to,
there.
anybody else?
Not
It's a
unless.
Whole day, sorry.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, if it's a school day, that means it's a work day, it would be hard.
Okay,
okay, so,
so there you go.
not a problem. And I think, I mean, I don't expect that we're going to be discussing business, even if we are.
I know, but even if you guys are like in the same place, there's.
Yeah.
Right, so remember, so Thursday night is your market basket night.
Right?
On
Got
Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday.
None of you are allowed to go out to school on Tuesdays.
I know, I must have, because there's me and Solid there. So no.
Yes.
Can I add something to?
Yeah.
So as I was working through things today, one of the things that I'm currently trying to button up by the end of the week is all of the sports council stuff and our next meeting and all of those things. I would like to remind everybody that we have not given the youth sports something that we discussed 2 years ago, which is, made me think of it because I was doing beach fees, is we have not given them a schedule. We have not increased user fees since 2 years ago, and we talked about doing so. We are getting to the point where maintaining some of this stuff is probably going to be looked at, and are we where we need to be? So if everybody can just kind of keep that on their radar, I think that we should have that conversation and have it ready to go by the next fiscal year. So we're coming up to July. I think it's important that we set that forth, because we did talk to them and say, if we're gonna do anything, we're gonna implement it, we're gonna give them time before the registration processes. Now is the time we need to start thinking about if / what we wanna do, review last year's fiscal budget, see if there was a shortfall, see what highway needs from us, all of those things, so that we can be fair and equitable to those guys before their new registrations start.
And they start their fall registrations in like July, beginning of July.
For which sport?
I don't know, you guys still doing baseball in fall? Yep. So, soccer, baseball. Oh, field hockey is more of a school thing. not-
Soccer
We're
already
talking
started.
soccer, baseball across.
Soccer's already started,
Yeah.
right, for fall.
Is it fall
No.
or spring?
Soccer
I
just
forget.
finished, they just finished spring,
Emails.
they just finished spring registration.
Spring
Yeah.
registration is
Right,
February now.
okay.
I was like,
But I think in
We're
July
the end of the
is
year.
when they open it to start for
So
fall.
We should.
so we should be
April, May, very latest, we
April,
should
May,
have
yeah.
this information put together. I'm gonna have a youth sports council meeting. I wanted to bring that up because I'm going to mention that to them that, you know, this has been 2 years now. Probably something we're gonna talk about. And what I'd like to do is, whether it's April or May, invite the youth sports council to that meeting so we can have the conversation, just see where everybody is and what everybody is capable of doing.
Let's aim for May.
And I can, right, I think, in my youth sport, I don't think I'm a sports counselor, am I?
I think,
It was you and Scott Brown.
All right, so just let me know, I'll come to that meeting.
I think we may have switched it over to Norm.
Oh, is Norm?
No, I think you
ever
still
made that
are because
vote.
Scott
Oh, okay.
left. I feel like, I'll go back and look.
News to me.
I'm like, you'll probably be here anyway, right?
He will be there.
As soon as you're not here,
I don't have to
volunteer
do
this.
That's the way it goes. Yep.
Norm's pulling papers tomorrow. But thank you. I just, those two being on the same screen, having the youth sports council email and doing beach.
no, I appreciate because that has crossed my mind a couple of times that we haven't done anything with it. But I'm glad you brought that up.
And we did promise them we're gonna build it out over like a 5-year schedule too.
Speaking of bringing it back up, I'm hoping, look at you, Kate, this isn't gonna be a super long discussion, so old business. We said in March, we would come back to the no photo policy updates. So just as a reminder, we did implement the new, which would be that the parents have to contact us in writing if they wish their child to be listed as no photos. And our previous process was a yes or no question in MyRec when signing up for programs. So we have been doing this, what's that? It's that before November.
We started in November.
November.
Yep.
So we've been doing it since November. We've had no complaints.
Oh, good.
No
We have-
complaints.
We have about a dozen that did write in. They're in a binder. It's been a very seamless process. We did not have
No,
everything's.
the program coordinator said that there was a lot of people that had said like, oh, I didn't even realize I did that. So to kind of, call it out and, for folks that really truly want those kids, like, yeah. So I don't know if you guys still wanna like talk about it, vote to make it permanent. It's up to you guys.
Remind me, did we,
We just said that we would do it, we would implement it and come back and have a conversation about it to see how it would go, how it went. So it went well.
I mean, if you want to put numbers to it, we're at about 80% of our normal registrations for summer programming. And we have a dozen that people have said they've gone through the process and we haven't had any issues.
Yeah.
And is it easier for the people to manage the staff they manage?
It's
Yes.
way easier for the
Right.
staff to manage because we don't have to dig and find, like, we literally used to have to go through it and say who's a no photo, who's not no photo. Now it's there delivering an email to the desk and it's in a binder.
yeah, and do we want to, permanently adopt this as a permanent policy? Is that, I guess,
That's what I would ask. I mean, since it is a policy, that is something that you guys do.
I will make a motion to adopt the no photo policy as it has been implemented this year.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I don't have any fancy pictures.
No pictures?
No big events or pictures.
So sorry.
Bring your pictures from next.
Fed break, no big Fed break pictures,
No.
because they all signed the no policy waiver.
Yeah, last time.
Last
We didn't, yeah,
for
no
last
special
meeting.
event
All
this
right,
this
fine.
go around. There you go.
Motion to adjourn.
And then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Wilson.
Thank
night.
you.